The story begins in deep space aboard the human ship HSS Dawnfall, which is under heavy attack by the alien empire known as the Kryn Dominion, a powerful and cruel species that has already destroyed Earth and most human colonies. The ship is shaking, alarms are screaming, and red lights flash everywhere as the crew realizes they are moments away from destruction. Captain Rhea Sol stands on the bridge, injured but still standing, listening as her officers report that the shields are almost gone and the engines are dead, meaning escape is impossible. Outside the viewing screen, massive alien warships surround them, cold and silent, like predators waiting for the final strike. The crew understands the truth they have been avoiding. Humanity has lost the war, and this ship may be the last human warship still fighting. As fear and silence spread across the bridge, Rhea turns her eyes to a sealed door behind them, marked as the Cryo Bay. Inside it lies Subject Atlas, a human soldier placed into cryosleep 30 years earlier during the early days of the war. Atlas was part of a secret experiment designed to push the human body and mind beyond natural limits, making a warrior stronger, faster, and more durable than any normal human. The project was shut down because leaders feared what such a weapon could become, and Atlas was frozen away, never meant to awaken. But now, with humanity facing extinction, Rhea knows there is no other choice. She gives the order to wake him, even though many on the crew are afraid of what might happen. Power is redirected to the Cryo Bay, and the frozen chamber slowly comes to life. Ice cracks and steam fills the room as Atlas's pod opens. He awakens suddenly, gasping for air, confused but alert, his body already adapting after decades of sleep. He steps out of the pod onto the cold metal floor, strong and steady, and calmly asks about the situation. Rhea tells him the truth. The war is nearly over and humans are losing. Atlas asks how long he has been asleep, and when he hears it has been 30 years, his expression hardens with quiet anger. He says the enemy has been given far too much time. Before any more can be said, the ship shakes violently as the Kryn begin boarding the vessel, tearing through the hull to kill the remaining humans. Atlas does not panic or hesitate. He picks up a damaged rifle, examines it briefly, and crushes it in his hand, showing that he no longer needs ordinary weapons. When the first Kryn soldiers break into the corridor, tall and armored with sharp jaws and glowing weapons, Atlas moves faster than anyone expects. Alien shots hit his body but fail to slow him down. He charges straight at them, killing the first attacker with brute force, smashing it into the wall so hard the metal bends. The others fall quickly, torn apart by his strength and speed. Blood coats the walls, and the humans watching from the bridge are left speechless, realizing that something incredible has just been unleashed. For the first time in many years, fear leaves their hearts and hope takes its place. Atlas continues forward without stopping, facing the invading aliens head-on, proving that humans are not as weak as the Kryn believed. The story closes this section with a powerful truth becoming clear to both sides of the war. Humanity has awakened its last and greatest weapon, and the galaxy is about to change forever. After Atlas's awakening, humanity's hope, long buried under decades of defeat, began to rise. News of his survival spread quickly through hidden human channels, and every message carried the same electrifying truth: the human had returned. Atlas did not waste time resting or recovering. He trained, fought, and planned with an intensity unmatched by anyone around him. The Dawnfall, once a ship barely holding together under enemy attacks, became more than a refuge. It became a symbol of human resilience and a lure for the Kryn. Humanity, though weaker in numbers and technology, began to strike with renewed cunning and courage under Atlas's guidance. In the first major battle since his awakening, human pilots in small, lightly armed pods faced an overwhelming Kryn fleet. Conventional wisdom predicted immediate annihilation, but Atlas changed the way humans fought. He instructed pilots to dodge and weave through enemy fire, to use the Kryn's confidence against them, and to strike where they least expected. Atlas himself led a boarding assault, launching through the vacuum of space with magnetic boots, locking him onto the hull of a massive alien battleship. Inside, he moved like a living storm, tearing through Kryn soldiers with a combination of strength, speed, and intelligence honed over decades in Cryo. Every movement was precise. Every strike calculated to maximize efficiency while instilling fear. The Kryn, who had long thought humans fragile and disorganized, were shocked. Atlas learned from each encounter, studying enemy tactics, the structure of their ships, and the patterns of their attacks. Every detail was reported back to human engineers and commanders who adapted quickly. Humans rebuilt their weapons, modified their ships, and transformed themselves into a force capable of meeting the Kryn on equal footing. But with each small victory came immense risk and loss. During the siege of Helios Drift, the Kryn unleashed a devastating planet-killer weapon, a beam capable of destroying moons. Atlas, standing on the surface of a crumbling space station, watched as the weapon's energy built to lethal levels. Without hesitation, he decided to act alone. He boarded a fragile fighter and flew straight into the heart of the Kryn fleet. Enemy fire tore the ship apart, yet Atlas survived by jumping from the vessel at the perfect moment, using thrusters to propel himself into the weapons platform. Inside, he faced thousands of Kryn soldiers. The battle stretched for hours. His armor cracked, his blood spilled, and every breath became a struggle, yet he pressed forward. Atlas relied not on tools or advanced technology, but on raw human ability, courage, and the ingenuity that had kept humans alive for millennia. Piece by piece, he dismantled the weapon, striking at its core with precise and brutal efficiency. When the weapon finally exploded, the beam that could have obliterated countless lives was neutralized. Atlas, exhausted and battered, drifted in space, his body and mind pushed to the limit. Rhea, observing from a distance, feared the worst. Yet Atlas's thrusters slowly reignited, and he returned, a living symbol of the human spirit. Humanity realized an essential truth. They were fragile, yes, but they were not powerless. Even against a foe as overwhelming as the Kryn, creativity, determination, and sheer will could turn the tide. Each battle under Atlas's leadership transformed human soldiers and pilots, instilling confidence that had been long lost. The Kryn began to understand that this human was not just strong but unpredictable, able to exploit weaknesses and outthink enemies who had considered themselves gods of war. Atlas's presence reinvigorated not only tactics but morale. Humans who had survived the destruction of planets and the loss of billions began to fight with purpose, no longer hoping merely to survive but determined to reclaim space for themselves. Yet, even with victories, the cost was immense. Ships were lost, lives were sacrificed, and each success came with a heavy reminder that Atlas himself was not invincible. The relentless pace of the war, the intensity of battles, and the endless cunning of the Kryn weighed on him, showing that even the strongest human has limits. Still, he pressed onward, not for glory, not for personal triumph, but for the survival of his species. Part 2 of the story emphasizes humanity's capacity for adaptation, courage, and innovation when faced with overwhelming odds. It shows how a single individual, awakened at the right moment, can transform despair into hope, chaos into strategy, and defeat into victory. Every move Atlas made, every risk he took, not only inflicted damage on the enemy but also taught humans that they could rise above their weaknesses. They learned to fight smarter, faster, and bolder. The story paints vivid images of space battles where human pilots dart through firestorms, where alien ships loom like dark monsters against the stars, and where Atlas himself becomes a whirlwind of unstoppable force. At the same time, the narrative does not shy away from emotional weight. The sacrifices, the exhaustion, and the fear that accompanies every human endeavor in the void of space. By the end of this part, humanity has learned an essential lesson. True strength does not always lie in numbers or technology, but in the spirit, courage, and intelligence that defines what it means to be human. Atlas, though exhausted and pushed to his physical limits, embodies this lesson, proving that even against an enemy who believes themselves unstoppable, humans have the ingenuity and determination to fight back, adapt, and survive. The seeds of ultimate victory have been planted, but the final confrontation looms, promising even greater tests of endurance, strategy, and courage. Part 2 builds tension and excitement while reinforcing the core theme. Humans, underestimated and outmatched, are capable of extraordinary feats when they refuse to surrender. The final part of the story begins with the Kryn consolidating their full strength, determined to crush humanity once and for all. They bring their home fleet, ancient warships, and their most powerful weapons to strike at New Dawn, the last hidden human world and sanctuary. Every human ship and fighter responds to the call to defend their home, knowing the stakes could not be higher. Atlas stands on the bridge alongside Captain Rhea Sol, observing the massive alien armada filling the void of space like a dark and endless ocean. The humans, though outnumbered and outgunned, are inspired by Atlas's presence, his calm determination acting as a beacon in the chaos. As the Kryn fleet closes in, the first waves of battle erupt. Space becomes a storm of explosions, lasers, and collisions as human ships dive between alien vessels, dodging fire and striking strategically where the Kryn least expect it. Atlas leads the boldest attacks, boarding massive enemy ships with a combination of unmatched strength, speed, and tactical genius. Each movement is precise, every strike devastating. The Kryn, who have long believed humans fragile and predictable, are thrown into panic and confusion by Atlas's unrelenting assault. Human pilots, motivated by his courage, push themselves beyond their limits, exploiting the chaos Atlas creates. Amid the fighting, Atlas's focus narrows on the Kryn flagship, the heart of the enemy fleet, which houses the Overmind, the central intelligence that commands the Kryn forces. He knows that as long as it survives, humanity will never truly be safe. Ignoring pain and exhaustion, he fights his way through the flagship, facing waves of elite Kryn soldiers and monstrous engineered creatures designed for war. His armor is shattered, his body bruised and bleeding, yet he moves with a relentless purpose, using both brute strength and tactical insight to reach the core. Along the way, human reinforcements strike alongside him, coordinated attacks that would have been impossible before his awakening. The climax of the battle arrives as Atlas confronts the Overmind directly. The alien intelligence taunts him, claiming endless power and superiority, but Atlas stands firm, knowing the fate of countless worlds rests on his shoulders. With a final, calculated effort, he overloads the core of the flagship, causing a massive explosion that destroys the central command of the Kryn fleet. The shockwave spreads through space, disabling the enemy ships and breaking their coordinated attack. Humanity seizes the opportunity, pushing forward to reclaim control of the battlefield. The enemy, leaderless and demoralized, begins to retreat in disarray. Atlas, gravely wounded, is found drifting near the wreckage of the flagship. His body has endured unimaginable stress, and though his suit remains functional, it is clear he has given everything. Rescue teams reach him, and Captain Rhea holds him as they bring him aboard a human vessel. His eyes, filled with fatigue yet still burning with the quiet fire of determination, open briefly as he asks if the battle is over. When Rhea confirms their victory, he allows himself a faint smile before closing his eyes, finally able to rest. Humanity survives, but the story does not shy away from the cost. Countless lives lost, ships destroyed, and a realization that their survival required the ultimate sacrifice of one extraordinary human. In the aftermath, New Dawn stands as a testament to human resilience. Statues are built, and stories are told to honor Atlas and all who fought, teaching future generations that humans are not the fastest or the strongest, but that they possess an indomitable spirit capable of defying overwhelming odds. The narrative emphasizes that the awakening of one human changed the course of the war, inspiring courage, ingenuity, and unity among the survivors. Atlas's actions demonstrate that when humanity faces extinction, determination, adaptability, and sacrifice can overcome even the most powerful adversaries. The Kryn, once feared as invincible, are forced to retreat, their perception of humanity forever altered. In the end, the story leaves a lasting impact, showing that humans, underestimated by the galaxy, can achieve the impossible when driven by survival, hope, and the will to fight. Part 3 closes the epic tale with a mixture of triumph and sorrow, highlighting that victory often comes at great cost. But the human spirit endures, leaving an unshakable legacy for generations to come. The story's conclusion reinforces the central theme. When humanity refuses to surrender, even the strongest enemies cannot stand against them, and sometimes, waking a single human is enough to turn the tide of war and inspire hope across the stars.